football podcast called Live in the Stream comes to you each week. Streaming recommendations during NFL season, it's not just tongue-in-cheek. Quarterback, defense, tight end recommendations based on opposition matchup. Here are your podcast hosts, JJ Zacharyson and Danny Carter. Live in the stream.
What is up, everybody? It's JJ Zacharyson, the late round quarterback. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely, lovely co-host. That's not even close to what our usual intro is, by the way. Denny Carter. Denny, what's going on, buddy?
That was a very straight-laced intro. We're here to introduce ourselves and to talk fantasy football. Gerald Everett against the Lions. Let's get going.
We are as serious as we can possibly be. I was talking to Denny a little bit before the show started. By the way, I'm kind of tilted that I introed so poorly there. I was kind of like in the mindset of the late round podcast with what's up, everyone, instead of welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. Anyway, I was talking to Denny a little bit before we got rolling here about how I don't know if people truly understand how dumb I am as like a human, not even like intelligent wise, like I'm not that smart of a person in my opinion, but also just like the stupid thing, like every time Denny logs on to we use StreamYard to stream this. Every time Denny logs in, I say something dumb to him immediately, and I call him some sort of name, or I say something stupid,
unspeakable sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, and it got me thinking, like the way that I've sort of placed myself within the fantasy space and how I do analysis, the late round podcast, and how I sort of approach that, how it's just like you're getting information, you're getting out. That's all you need. It's like it's like fantasy football cocaine, right? And
just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
Just the facts. And I think that a lot of people assume that me in everyday life is like this type A robotic guy. And I don't mean like I'm pretty self-aware, right? That's not what I am at all. Like as a human, right?
No, you're not. I can confirm that. Yeah, no. But you know what the people want. And the people, they want you to stick to foosball, and they want you to give them as much information as possible and as little time as possible. And that's what you do. And that's why you're successful. So I would say you're not dumb. That's just my personal take on it. You're not dumb. You're actually quite smart because you know what people want. But that is obviously not you on an everyday basis.
Right. People definitely think that it is me. But then the other part of this, Denny, that I've come to realize through the years is that because I've placed myself the way that I have in terms of just being like, I'm going to give you hopefully strong advice, data-driven advice, logical advice. Because of that, now all of a sudden, if I make a mistake, and I'm not even talking about like, hey, I said to draft Bijan Robinson and he's going to finish as an RB2 instead of an RB1 or high-end RB1, not even that kind of stuff. I'm talking more like, hey, in my rankings this week, I completely forgot to put player X, or on my podcast on 15 transaction show that I just did, for instance, yesterday, or that dropped today, I had Tony Pollard as a buy. And the Tony Pollard recommendation said, hey, he's faced the 5th toughest schedule so far this season. And then I realized after the fact, I actually cited that incorrectly. He's faced like an average schedule. And now I have to amend that tomorrow. And there will be people emailing me about this.
Yeah, there will be. What you could have said with Pollard, instead of going into all the metrics and the schedule stuff, you could have just said Pollard is mid, and then moved on.
I know. I had a pretty spicy 15 transaction show this week. I had both Bijan and Tony Pollard as buy candidates.
Oh, that is spicy.
Oof. It's spicy. But that's exactly why that's why they're buy candidates, because that talent in those situations, like how we viewed them entering the season. The thing with Tony Pollard that's really crazy, Denny, he's played half of his games in plus matchups and half of them in not plus matchups. In the games that he's played in plus matchups, he's averaged like 18.5 PPR points per game. Like he's been fine in plus matchups. It's when he faces bad or good teams, rather, bad matchups. That's when he really ends up screwing up.
So I actually think that the pressure has mounted to such an extent on Arthur Smith to get Bijan involved that we might actually see it start happening. I'm not playing around here. Like I really think like finally like the national media has caught up with fantasy managers on this issue of Bijan's usage, and they're like, wait, wait, this guy's really not using Bijan Robinson like anywhere important on the field. And so they're pressuring him. So I think that pressure could result in actually high leverage touches for Bijan going forward, hopefully for those who drafted him.
I had 4 things, if I can remember them off the top of my head, 4 things about Robinson that I called out on the show. The first one is that he's been better than Tyler Algier based on any metric that you look at. I mean, he's been like rushing yards over expected per rush. It's literally 1.4 yards more than Tyler Algier this season. It's
he's been good by every peripheral measure.
Everything. And I had someone in my mentions earlier today say, well, what if Arthur Smith knows that Bijan's not as good as people think? And that's why no, that's a garbage argument.
I wanted that take, JJ. I wanted that to be true. And it's not true. It's not true. Bijan's been excellent.
It's not true. The second point, people don't think about the contingent upside enough about the 1A in a backfield. They think only about the 1B. If Tyler Algier goes down, Cordell Patterson will step in and see more work. But Bijan Robinson is like, if you knew that Tyler Algier wasn't going to play for the rest of the season, would you have Bijan Robinson as RB4, RB3 in fantasy?
Somewhere around there, 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So there is that upside, right? There's that contingent upside. There's what you were talking about where there's this pressure. They've lost back-to-back games against backup quarterbacks. Right. Something's got to change. And sometimes when teams have their backs against the wall like that, they make changes, and that change might be Bijan Robinson getting more work, right?
That's right.
Like it's possible.
I think it's possible, yeah.
The last thing is their schedule. They have the easiest schedule in among all running backs rest of season. Their playoff schedule, they get the Panthers, Bears, and Colts in the playoffs.
Oh, baby.
It's pretty. Things are aligning for Bijan Robinson. Not so much that like we have to make the assumption, but I had him still in my top 10 rest of season at running back because after like RB, I don't know, like 4 or 5, like things just get really flat and stupid, right?
Yes, they do.
Like it's just dumb. So I'm gonna chase upside. I'm gonna go after a player who is relevant, is an RB2 essentially, while getting less than half of his team's running back rushes in a fairly mediocre offense because he's that good, who still has room for growth. You know, we're not talking about like Rachaad White right now, where Rachaad White is maxed out from a volume standpoint. Nothing against Rachaad White. Like I loved him entering the season, but like we have to think about upside a little bit more when we're looking at projecting forward, right? We can't just look at median projections and say this guy needs to be ranked ahead of this guy, because there's a lot more that goes into that. There's a lot. I just mentioned a lot of different outs for Bijan Robinson to be better.
He's gonna go off this week, just so everyone knows.
Yeah. Anyway, I know that I'm just ranting to kick off today's show, but going back and forth with some patrons today about this, and obviously people, listening to a sort of edgy 15 transactions episode really fired me up today.
It did, but just getting back to the original subject at hand here, JJ is not the person you hear on 15 transactions. Let's just say. Yeah.
I mean, like
he's way sillier. You're sillier than that.
I've gotten past like I'm to the point where I don't care if people think of me that way. It doesn't really bother me. But I will say, like the first few years that I did the Late Round podcast, it bothered me.
Really?
That people thought that like, I was this like soulless, data-driven, robot that was just spewing information to them each week. I have one more thing I need to talk about before we get into the what happened last week. I've been wanting to talk about this on the show for a while. You want to know what my biggest pet peeve is aside from Arthur Smith?
Oh boy. What is it?
It is when you go to either a credit card, like like you insert your chip type machine, like at Starbucks or something like that, if you don't have a Starbucks card, or if you're at a gas station, right? You put in your card, and then the most tilting experience is how the display continues to flash to keep your card in the holder, right? But it's flashing as if it's going to change the message that it's sending you to then pull the card out of the holder, right?
I know what you're saying. Yes.
And it's something that this feels like a very like Seinfeld-y type thing that they would do an entire episode on, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I can't get over the experience and the feelings that I feel when I'm going to I'm just trying to pump my gas. Nothing major. And I'm putting my card in, and it's like, boop. And I'm like, oh, I got it. Oh, no. It's just this back and forth. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, insert your zip code because you're using a credit card. And then it's like, oh, do you want a car wash? And then it's like, please wait a moment. Please wait a moment. Please wait. I just want to get gas. I want to give you guys money for gas.
Also, yeah. So do you want this? You want that? Bonus points. Do you want a car wash? Do you want to donate money to military veterans with cancer? Like,
Yeah.
it's just so much.
It's horrible.
It's too much.
Yeah, just let me get my gas and move on instead of and again, why is the technology in 2023 flashing the messaging constantly throughout that process instead of just saying your card is inserted, please wait, and then at the very end it says take the card out. And
Right.
some of you are going to respond and say that's what it says. It's not. There's flashing. There's this festival of lights going on this freaking screen, and I can't just get my gas. I can't just get my tea.
I too am overwhelmed by this, JJ. I do understand.
Good. I'm glad that I'm not alone. I needed to get that off my chest because I've been thinking about it for literally a month and a half to bring up on the show to see if I'm alone or not with how this operates.
Look, the Zoomers are going to make fun of you. I
Yeah,
just want to be
probably.
clear about that. The Zoomers are going to be like, "What are you talking about? That's cool. I like it. I like that about those."
What about the people in states where they don't even pump their gas?
Oh, like New Jersey? That's a weird thing to me. I don't want anybody pumping my gas.
No, I've never actually experienced that before.
I had to. You have to when you're in New Jersey. You
Yeah,
can't
did you?
pump
So
your-
you're pretty close to Jersey. I'm assuming you've driven through.
Yeah, I've driven
Jersey.
through. Yeah, several many times, and it's so strange because like people from New Jersey are like, of course I'm not going to pump my own gas, and I'm like, what? You know, it's really easy, right? Like, it's super straightforward. Besides this whole credit card thing,
Right. It's one of the weirdest like laws and situations that you can, in my opinion, that's out there. It's very strange to me.
we're not going to get political, but it is super strange. By the way, we have Billiam says, what about the video ads on the gas pumps that yell at you? Yeah, I love those too. I love that I can't escape a screen while I'm pumping gas. Okay,
Right.
you can't escape. You spend all day looking at screens, and you're like, let me go put some gas in the car, and you got to watch Maria Menounos talk about her new podcast about wellness or whatever. And I'm like, Maria, with all due respect, I'm done with screens at the moment.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on. And it's not even just, it's at the grocery store when you're checking out and you're like, did I pull this out too soon? That's yeah, like you don't know what's going on. It's just this back and forth, a lot of weird movements going on. So if you see me in public, make sure that you don't video me when I'm inserting a credit card, because
that actually would be pretty cool.
It could be embarrassing. Anyway, Denny, let's look at what happened last week. Pretty good week overall, I'd say. We had Derek Carr as sort of the main streamer. He had 16.7. Baker Mayfield had 19. Gardner Minshew had only 9.6. We added Bryce Young at the last minute as a deep streamer. He had 9. He did not come through. I actually think still from a process standpoint, Bryce Young was fine last week because he was playing a little bit better. The Panthers were playing a little bit better. And then all of a sudden, they were horrific again.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Just really, really bad. I still don't think it's like all a Bryce Young thing, but I do think that they are punching themselves in the nuts with the taking Bryce Young over CJ Stroud at this point.
Whoa, man. I just want to update everyone because I know you guys are concerned. You guys are asking me, did you hear from Panthers fans in your DMs this week? And I can report that after getting dozens of Panthers fans in my DMs last week, I did not see any in week 9. So I'll keep you updated on that.
The CJ Stroud stuff is awesome to me. So like, I remember during the, like, I don't really prospect quarterbacks. I'm pretty open about that. And I just kind of went by draft capital. I had them in the same tier, but I just went Bryce Young, then CJ Stroud. But during rookie drafts, a lot of people just didn't want CJ Stroud. It was very bizarre and super flex drafts. And so like, I'm getting CJ Stroud at like 106 in these these super flex rookie drafts. People are taking JSN over him and stuff. And I'm like, the value of quarterback in this league is way, in any super flex dynasty league, is way too great to pass on what you believe is the proper valuation. Right.
Yes.
And so I have a lot of CJ Stroud, and I'm in a dynasty league, Denny, with some Hollywood folk and some fantasy analysts. I call them Hollywood randos, and that's actually what the league is called. And in that league this past week, Denny, I scored, we get, it's 20 passing yards per point instead of 25. I scored 95 points with my quarterbacks. It was Dak Prescott and CJ Stroud are my quarterbacks.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hey, you
felt
don't
very
mess
good.
with Texas. You don't mess with
You
Texas.
don't mess with Texas. Dak Prescott, Denny, has been a top 3 quarterback in 3 straight weeks.
He's been great.
Yes.
He's been fantastic. You know what the worst thing, just real quick about Dak playing so well last week, is that he played like basically a perfect game against the Eagles and they still lost. Like that it's over. Like I don't know what's going to happen from here, but the Cowboys can't compete with elite teams. That is absolutely not in question anymore.
Yeah, but Dak is good. I mean, it's really interesting that like we are quite literally going down the same path with Dak Prescott as we did with Tony Romo.
It's
the same thing.
Yes, it's the same thing. And after Dak, there will be somebody else who will be the center of attention, and we'll all say, "Well, he's either horrible or he's great," but there's no in between.
The next one, let's go to tight ends last week. Taysom Hill, 20.6. Taysom Hill is just he's literally like Travis Kelce right now from a fantasy standpoint.
I have a take real quick on Taysom. Tell me if I'm crazy.
Okay.
Taysom Hill, rest of season, scores more fantasy points than any other tight end.
That's your like is that in sum because Travis Kelce has a bye this week, or is that I don't know? Have the Saints had their bye? I don't even know.
I don't know. I wasn't thinking about that.
Okay. So you're saying points per game?
Points per game. Taysom finishes as the tight end one from here until the end of the season because he is the only game in town when they get in the red zone. Derek Carr comes out of the game for the entire time they're in the red zone now.
Pretty amazing that Carr's been pretty usable the last few weeks, despite that.
Yeah, it is crazy, but he's been terrible as a red zone passer. Okay. Yeah. And I thought that would regress, but the Saints said, forget about all that. We're just putting Taysom in and he's going to throw and he's going to catch passes and he's going to rush the ball. And I think he's an elite top play.
Yeah. Bethany Q Peters says says here's a tidbit. JJ's draft guide recommended against drafting Dak. It's true. I went against drafting Kirk Cousins and Dak and getting players who are statues back there because I didn't see the ceiling, right? And I also, here's a little tidbit, Bethany. I also 3 weeks ago in 15 transactions said buy the Dallas Cowboys passing attack. And so people were getting CeeDee Lamb, getting Dak Prescott low, and now look at them now. Now they're looking good.
So you saying you changed your mind?
Yeah, I did. I changed my mind, Danny.
So this is that's for betas.
That's
just
true.
want to be clear.
That's true.
For betas. Also, someone said that pointed out in the comments that I'm saying I don't want to look at screens yet, JJ. I'm on a screen right now.
Good point.
It's curious.
We also had Jonnu Smith last week who had 21 PPR points. We added K. Dotton was my best call of last week.
It was a great call.
Yeah, he had 23. I went on, I know that we're just like talking about like the predictions we made and all that kind of stuff, but I went on, I do a show called Covering the Spread with Jim Sonis every week. It's FanDuel's sports betting podcast. And on that show, my anytime touchdown bets, I do 2 of them a week and I do 2 yardage bets a week. I got all 4 bets correct this week, MBD, but my anytime touchdown bets were Chris Olave and K. Dotton, and they happened within 10 seconds of one another.
Oh, cool. Wait, what was K. Dotton's?
He was plus 490.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that means if you bet 100, you won 490.
Yeah, it was almost a 5-1 bet. Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. So K. Dotton, 23 PPR points. Luke Musgrave, another one who came through for us after, look, we only recommended him 8 times before he finally found the end zone. So 14.1 for him. Trey McBridge was the worst tight end for us, which, I'm not like super shocked about because Clayton Tune, Browns are so good against tight ends. It's absurd. Like if you look at how they've performed outside of Mark Andrews, it's legitimately frightening. Like they've allowed like 80 total yards to other tight ends this year. It's been crazy. So
it was a horrible spot.
Horrible spot. But you still, I think, had to start him because the volume potential was there. He still had a 25% target share. The Atlanta defense, they didn't seem good, but then I realized that they still scored 9 fantasy points against Minnesota this past week.
How did that happen?
I don't know. New England had 8. Washington had 3. They were a disappointment. Vegas had 19, which was something. The Giants, on the other hand, ended up with -1. So if you chose right between those two, that 50-50 proposition, that's great. And then the Chargers, I was in a position last night, Denny, where I was up by 1.2 points and I had the Chargers in my lineup. And I said, I said, what's more likely, a stat correction, right, for me to lose, or the Chargers to give up 35 plus points to Zach Wilson? And what I said was, the latter is not going to happen. I'm going to play the Chargers because I want to get more total points for my team, later in the season. So I stuck with them, and they scored 27 fantasy points.
Yeah, that works.
It works. All right, let's move on to week number 10, Denny. I'll kick things off because we have 3 quarterbacks and I have 2 of them. We'll start with Josh Dobbs, who, if you could rank the most likable players in football right now, where would Dobbs rank?
Number one with a bullet. Look, this guy, he has unimaginable levels of dog in him.
Yeah.
He tries so hard. He's super smart, learning the playbook during the game. Just insane game against the Falcons. I love that guy.
How unreal would you feel being Josh Dobbs after that game in the locker room?
Yeah, you don't even know the guys. They hoisted him up.
Yeah, he's like, I can't even trust. They haven't even done trust falls yet. How is he supposed to know they can hold him up in the air like that?
He doesn't even know their names. It's unbelievable. Think of how good he can be going forward.
Yeah. So Josh Dobbs, New Orleans is not a plus matchup for them. They ranked 22nd in adjusted fantasy points allowed this season to quarterbacks. So not a great matchup, but I will say matchups haven't really mattered for Josh Dobbs because, like you said, he's got that dog in him. He was the QB6 against San Francisco, although San Francisco is becoming more and more of a favorable matchup for passing attacks. He was the QB16 against Dallas the one week where they beat Dallas. He was the QB8 against Baltimore. He's the only quarterback against the Ravens who ranked higher than QB18 in weekly scoring this season, Josh Dobbs. And a lot of it comes down to his rushing. He's averaging 36 rushing yards per game. That's almost an extra passing touchdown. You get a good supporting cast or a decent enough supporting cast with Hawkinson, Addison, and some of the secondary guys. I doubt KJ Osborne's going this week, right? Do we know?
No, we don't know. I mean, he's probably not going to practice until, if he doesn't practice on Friday, even a limited session, then he's definitely going to be out.
Did he have a confirmed concussion?
He did. Okay. He got double head.
Yeah, it was horrible. The hit was I can't believe he got up after that.
It was actually, I thought it was going to be one of those nightmare situations.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, Osborne might be out, but I do think that just situationally and the team itself, really not a bad, especially considering where he was at with Arizona, really not a bad situation for Dobbs. And I also think that he's probably a long-term starter for if and when, hopefully, cross your fingers, Justin Jefferson comes back.
Definitely should be rostered in all super flex leagues. Probably already was, but just to put that out there. Also, I found this little tidbit in my random stat researching the other day, yesterday. The Saints are dead last in QB pressure rate this year, so that could be okay for Dobbs.
Yeah.
I have Will Levis. He of many muscles and tattoos, against the Bucks. Levis on Tuesday was named the starter rest of season. So we have that going for us. You can a little boost in the confidence of the rookie. We actually saw Tennessee go 3% over their expected drop back rate last week against the Steelers. That led to 39 attempts for Will Levis. The Bucks, as we saw last week against the Texans, have become a massive pass funnel. But even before that, they were a pass funnel defense. The Bucks are allowing the second highest completion rate over expected over the past 3 weeks. So they're a really, really good spot for any quarterback, including Will Levis.
The last quarterback who I actually had to mention on the 15 transaction show, I mentioned Dobbs. Levis was I mentioned Levis last week, and so I didn't want to have the repeat transaction and stuff. Taylor Heineke, Denny. Taylor Heineke gets Arizona this week. Arizona is a top 5 matchup in adjusted fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks, four quarterbacks. So that's good. Atlanta actually has a pretty decent implied team total. It's the 9th highest implied total on the slate for the Falcons. And with Taylor Heineke, he's throwing it down the field a lot more than Desmond Ridder did. His 2 ADOTs over the last 2 weeks, his lowest in a game has been 9.4. Desmond Ridder, that's according to Fantasy Life. Desmond Ridder has not had an ADOT that low all season long. So
that high.
Yeah, that high. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So 9.4 was the number for Heineke last week, and Ridder has not met that this season. So down the field passing, that's good. And Arizona this season has allowed the highest completion rate on 15 plus air yard throws. So hopefully, cross your fingers, Drake London can go, because it could be a really nice Drake London day, hopefully down the field between him and Heineke. And maybe Heineke comes through with 15 or 16 fantasy points.
And I will say, if Drake London can't go, he has a groin injury. He's out last week. It is Kadero Hodge season.
Yeah, a lot of air yards for him, right?
We love our prayer yards for Kadero Hodge. Anyway, let's move on. To tight ends here?
Yeah, let's have you kick things off.
Yeah, I will kick things off with Jonnu Smith, the centerpiece of the Arthur Smith offense. He even saw a goal line carry over Bijan Robinson in week 9. So we do love to see that. Doesn't drive anybody insane. Jonnu has at least 5 targets in 6 of his past 8 games. He's running about the same route rate as Kyle Pitts. The Falcons lead the entire NFL with a 35% target share, 2 tight ends. And the Cardinals are not a good tight end matchup necessarily, but tight ends can get by against them. Last week, the Cardinals gave up 6 catches on 9 tight end targets to the Browns, including a David Njoku touchdown. But really, we have to emphasize that Jonnu Smith is the centerpiece. He's the engine that gets this Falcons offense going.
That's right. Juwan Johnson's another one. Tight end sucks this week, for the record. It's not going to be as good as last week. Last week is honestly like we had 3 20+ point performances last week, which is absurd.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Juwan Johnson against Minnesota. He got a little bit more run this past week. I know that Taysom Hill's been involved, but Juwan Johnson in his game back 2 weeks ago had a 50% route participation. This past week, he ran a route on 71% of the team's dropbacks, which was good to see. He saw a 15.6% target share in that game, which is not bad at tight end. Minnesota's just an average matchup, but he's getting more usage and tight end sucks. So I think Juwan Johnson's okay.
It was funny to see Taysom, a tight end, throw a touchdown to Juwan Johnson, a tight end. That was that warmed my streaming heart. Gerald Everett, he's still in the NFL, folks. He's playing against the Lions this week. Look, on the season, he's a 44% route share. That's not great. He ran 60% of the routes on Monday night against the Jets. He saw 2 targets. He actually did something cool with one of his receptions, if you guys saw it down the sideline. And then he did not see the light of day after that for some reason. The Lions are an okay tight end matchup. Tight ends are seeing almost 8 targets per game against Detroit. I do think that the Chargers are going to probably have to air it out here. Could be okay for Everett.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really have a second option. I have Detroit as the 7th best matchup, according to my numbers, and adjusted points allowed. So it could be a lot worse, for Everett. But the problem with him, obviously, is that they're still running Donald Parham, and he's not seeing the same kind of route participation as even like a Juwan Johnson saw this past week. All right, let's move on to defense. Denny, I think the top streamer this week has to be Seattle against Washington.
Yeah.
It's like one of those like subjective bounce back spots for the Seahawks after getting demolished by Baltimore this past week. Washington has allowed both a top 10 pressure rate and sack rate this year. As we know, they can't keep Sam Howell upright, or Sam Howell can't stay upright in that offense. As a matchup, they're the 2nd best for opposing defenses in adjusted fantasy points allowed. Seattle's at home. They're pretty decent favorites. The process.
Also, Seattle allowing the 4th lowest completion rate over expected to opposing quarterbacks this year. So that's good. I have the Raiders. I'll start with the Raiders. I have a good feel for the Raiders right now. In that they're so happy that Josh McDaniels is gone, and I think that actually is going to affect how this team performs. They're playing the Jets this week. The Jets are somehow 1.5 point favorites with a whopping 36.5 point game total. It's the 2nd lowest of the week. The Raiders have the 4th highest quarterback pressure rate over the past month. Okay, with Max Williams. Is that his name? Max Crosby. Right. Yes, I got the wrong double X Max. But yeah, Max Crosby. So they are pressuring the quarterback. Zach Wilson, of course, folds like a cheap fold-out chair under pressure, completing 42% of his passes when under pressure, averaging 4.5 yards per attempt. We're in on the Raiders.
I always find it funny, and look, all props to Antonio Pierce and what he's doing with the Raiders right now, right? But I always find it funny that when a non-players coach gets fired, and then all a team needs is a guy who listens and a guy who like can like, did you see the one interview about how he had the practice squad players
at the game
on the sidelines? He's like, they're part of our team, so they should be on the sideline, which is seemingly like a pretty obvious take, right? But at the same time, it's still refreshing to hear just like a normal
Yeah.
human being lead this team. And I think that we see some of these younger coaches who haven't necessarily been around the coaching circles. You know, Josh McDaniels was in and out of like, I know that he's not like super old or anything, but he was in and out of these different, he went to Denver and then he had the Indianapolis thing and he's been with New England forever and all that kind of stuff. I just think that we have a different generation in the way that they listen and are motivated, and they need coaches who will listen to them as humans as opposed to it being
Yes.
a drill sergeant situation.
Absolutely. Look, you cannot be Bill Belichick. And Josh McDaniels has always wanted to be Bill Belichick.
Right.
Okay. And he thinks he can be a hard ass, and he thinks he can come in and push guys around, metaphorically, and get them to submit to the system, to the Patriot way. The Patriot way is a failure. Okay. It's a total failure. It's failed everywhere except for with Tom Brady for a while and for 20 years. But McDaniels didn't have that human touch. Antonio Pierce does, and it's great.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at Mike Tomlin and what he's done for the last, it's
Right.
almost been 20 years at this point.
Right.
But like he is the quintessential players coach
Absolutely.
who motivates. He understands defense, obviously, but he motivates so well. Players love to play for him, and that's why everyone's like, "How is Mike Tomlin so good at the blah blah blah?" It's because of that. Like you need leaders who are able to listen and who are able to connect with you on an emotional level instead of just saying and treating you like a piece of garbage and treating you like an object.
Right. So you got you. Okay. Yeah. Look at Pete Carroll fits that description. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mike McDaniel so far fits that description. Dan Campbell. Absolutely. Right. So we're naming some of the best coaches in the league right now. You look at guys who have completely failed on this level. It's Josh McDaniels. It's Joe Judge. It's Matt Patricia. What do they have in common? They come from the Belichick tree, which again, I can't emphasize this enough, is a failure. It is a failed experiment, the Belichick tree. So let's just be honest about that.
And honestly, dude, like this goes into workplaces. This is not just a football centric thing. It's think about the bosses that you've had and think about how you like them and don't like them based on how they treat you. If they treat you like a human who has a family, who has a life, who doesn't have to pour 80 hours a week into the business, you're going to like them more and you're going to perform better more than likely than someone that you don't prefer to be taking direction from.
Absolutely. I had a boss. I currently love my bosses. I also had a boss at my old job, at my previous job, who she would touch base with me about the kids, about how things are going. If I would express that I was a little bit stressed out, she would say, "Why don't you take off the last few hours of Friday?"
Right.
Like, and I'm okay. Should I put that like on my timesheet? No, don't worry about it.
Right.
I mean, yeah, that touch is very important.
I mean, I'm my last job. It's kind of hilarious to think about me. I mean, me as a manager, I had a lot of people working at Number Fire FanDuel, and we were doing a lot of editorial stuff, and obviously started doing more video and media stuff. And like Jim Sonis and Brandon Gadula in particular worked under me at Number Fire and FanDuel for 6 years, 7 years. I mean, a really long time. And they're very good friends of mine. Like it's not, it needs like, it doesn't need to be so difficult and so hierarchical. And so like, it does not need to be that way in order to really get the most out of the people that are working for you, because they're really working with you at the end of the day. I mean, Antonio Pierce understands that clearly, and Josh McDaniels does not understand that whatsoever.
It's why the Raiders are going to go undefeated from here on out.
I hope they do. I mean, but how awesome. Like they were like smoking cigars in the locker room.
That was cool.
It's great. It's awesome. Let them do that. I mean, my first job out of school, we had a kegerator. It was great.
Really?
Oh yeah. I was working, ad agency life,
That's funny. Kegerator.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So we talked about Seattle. We talked about the Raiders. I'm going to go to a team. I think this is much more of a dart throw situation. This is definitely a deep play. Chicago against Carolina. Now, the reason I say this game in Chicago is in Chicago's Thursday night game. Sounds like Justin Fields is probably going to go. I mean, he's been practicing.
Yes, I think he is.
So you get a 39.5 point over under. That's obviously, good from a process standpoint. It is a Thursday night game. We see a lot of sloppiness on Thursday night, but Chicago really is going to need to force turnovers in order for them to be a decent fantasy defense. They've gotten more than 1 sack in just 2 games this season.
Right.
Like there is the opposite of a sack based floor. For Chicago, they don't generate a lot of pressure.
No.
This doesn't mean that I like Bryce Young, because it's hard to really trust Bryce Young after what happened last week. But I do think that Chicago's still risky because they really don't generate a lot of pressure.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Last defense, I think here. I know we just talked about Will Levis, but also consider the Bucs defense. Again, 38.5 point game total. It's really bad, really ugly. Levis has been a little bit boom bust. He ranks 28th out of 31 qualifying quarterbacks in success rate over the past 2 weeks, over his 2 starts. And outside of the deep ball connections that he had, and I'm not taking away anything. Okay, you got to hand it to him. Good throws. Outside of that, he's been a little bit shaky. So if the Titans fall behind and have to kind of abandon the run, could be decent for Tampa's defense.
Yeah, I think the whole Will Levis thing is more about like the expectation was that he was going to just totally fail when he stepped on a football field, and he's actually shown some signs. He has that like Josh Allen vibe going, early career Josh Allen, of just like he's just doing what's instinctually correct to him.
Yeah.
Right. Where it doesn't necessarily look pretty, like last week against Pittsburgh when he was about to get sacked and he just like threw the ball backwards. That was the most Josh Allen thing I've ever seen in my life.
He plays on vibes.
He plays on vibes. It's really fun to watch, though. Like, we need more Will Levis type quarterbacks in the league.
Absolutely, yes. Aiden O'Connell is just flinging it downfield. That's awesome. Let's do that.
All right, to recap, we have Vegas, Chicago, if you're in desperate need of a defense, Tampa Bay, Seattle, Juwan Johnson, Jonnu Smith, Gerald Everett, Taylor Heineke, Josh Dobbs, and Will Levis. I see in chat, it says officially that will go down as a 5-minute segment about the Raiders defense.
I mean, hey, it was worth it, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's important that people realize you don't have to work for a crappy boss. All right, let's go to Twitter. We got some questions. This first one's from @JustinWhiteVA. We team Mario Party, Mario Kart, or Smash Brothers? Sounds like a living the stream question for later. Missed the cult's festivities today due to another wife's procedures, but look forward to an enjoyable distraction. So this is from last week.
Yeah.
But he says Mario Party, Mario Kart, or Smash Brothers.
First of all, I want to say I hope your wife is doing well.
Yeah.
I struggle with this question because JJ, I swear this is not an exaggeration, not a bit. I've never played Smash Brothers.
You've never played Smash ever?
No, and I know people love it.
Oh man, it's amazing. Yeah. I used to play N64 Smash like it was. I mean, like especially like when you because remember you go to college and then you bust out the old system like Sega or what have you. Ours was we had an N64 in our apartment and we would just drink and play Smash on like a Thursday night, and it was you don't realize that you're in the best time of your life,
right?
Until 15 years later and you're talking about it.
Like Andy on The Office, you wish there was somebody to tell you you're living the best time of your life.
Yeah. Right.
I never played Smash. I played an ungodly amount of Mario Kart, which is why obviously I would beat you in Mario Kart.
Are you talking, is there a specific kart that you're talking here?
I'm just trying to make you mad. 64 and 64.
Is 64 like your main kart? Like you would. Who do you play with? Toad. Okay, I do too. So we would have to both not be Toad.
Okay, I'd
play as Yoshi.
Yoshi's almost a cheat code. I'd go with Princess.
Peach or Yoshi. So we're lightweights on in Mario Kart. The people who say that Bowser, DK, the heavyweights on Mario Kart 64 are better. I know that I'm going to beat them in Mario Kart.
They're lying, but can I tell you something though? So I used to play a lot, like way too much, almost like to the point where it affected our relationship. I used to play against my brother-in-law, okay, who's much younger than me. He's like 12 years younger than me, and we used to be very competitive. Like I would win some, he'd win some. And then he got so good that I could no longer compete with him. And you know who he was every single time? He was freaking Bowser.
Yeah. I've heard that. I think Matt Harmon's a Bowser guy too. And look, I'm just saying I'll still win. I'll still beat them if they're playing Bowser, if they perfected Bowser.
So yeah, how did he win? Because Bowser's so slow. Like when Bowser gets hit by a red shell, it takes like 5 minutes for him to get back
Yeah,
up.
I guess it's the momentum factor.
Okay. So when he gets going,
Yeah, and I think that there have been analysis done on
oh,
Mario
I'm
Kart
sure.
64 about someone said for Matt Harmon BYB instead of Boy Young Boy, it was Boy Young Bowser.
Yeah, Bowser.
Everyone, after you listen to the show, make sure you at Matt Harmon Boy Young Bowser.
Boy Young Bowser.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think there's been like analysis done that said like some of the heavyweights are actually like good, but I think it's BS.
I do too. So who are the heavyweights in N64? It's
Wario, DK, and Bowser, right? Those three.
those are the only three. DK is horrific. Like
Yeah.
he's top heavy,
Yeah.
right? And it takes him a long time to get up to speed. I think the one advantage is he can the bigger guys, they can bulldoze through the Toads.
Sure.
And that sucks. But you get bulldozed as Toad, and you can get up to speed right away.
Right. Agreed.
So,
Have you been a Mario Party fan?
No, I haven't played much, but I didn't like what I played.
Oh, okay.
So
I like Mario Party. I would probably rank them if I were putting my gamer hat on. I'd rank them Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Mario Party. But I think if I were putting on my party hat, it would be the Kart Bros part. I think Party is probably last of the.
Yeah.
Have you ever done the game with Mario Kart? This is another college thing that I would do, where and even a little bit post college, where you have to drink a beer during a Mario Kart race, right? And the stipulation is you cannot be driving while you're drinking the beer.
Really?
So there's a lot of strategy involved. What I would do is just wait at the starting line and just chug the beer and finish the beer, and then you're in 8th place and you can get the better items and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Because they will flood you with lightning,
Right.
with the blue shell, with a
Right.
bunch of red shells. They'll give it that to you. That's a great. Only you could come up with that analytically sound strategy, I have to say. Okay, here's the thing. I swear, I've never had a sip of alcohol while playing Mario Kart.
Oh, it's Mario Kart while drinking is amazing.
It sounds incredible. It sounds incredible. I did play on the what's that other Nintendo system? Not Switch, but Wii.
Wii. Okay.
So on Wii, you know the Mario game that comes with Wii.
Which
the
one
original.
was it?
I don't know. It's just like it's like the main one where you just kind of go along the. Anyway, I played that while consuming some booze once, and that was fun as hell.
I told you this on Late Round Perspectives, which, by the way, guys, Denny was on Late Round Perspectives last week.
Check it out.
But I mentioned on Late Round Perspectives there's a new Mario out for Switch, and it is I'm not even kidding. It's probably a top 10 game I've ever played.
That is awesome. Really,
it's so good. There's so much creativity to it. It's side scrolling that we all love, like classic Mario, but there's just so much more depth to it. Really? It is so freaking good. I wish I could play more, but it's football season, so I just can't get away as much to play. But my in-laws are in town, so we're just kind of like hanging out we were just like hanging out this weekend, and I played like 3 straight hours of that game on like Saturday night. It was amazing.
That's funny, man. Yeah. I have to play that with my son. Somebody needs to buy that for me. Please,
someone gift Denny the new Mario. That'd be great.
Oh God, no, don't do it. People are gonna take you seriously. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
I'll get it.
Next question at Mana_dork. Is there anything more annoying/terrifying than the algorithm? No, I don't need to buy sunglasses. I just bought them. Why are you showing me ads for this specific item that I was just talking to my wife about? No YouTube. I don't want to watch more videos like that one I watched once.
Well, I have a different. What's your take on the algorithmically driven modern life?
I don't care at all.
Okay.
My stance is if it's giving me things that I want, it's a better experience than giving me things that I don't want.
I'm torn because honestly, your phone obviously listens to you, your phone reads your emails, your texts, everything. It knows you better than you know yourself. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
And so it it will generate things that you actually do need. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is kind of one upside of it. The downside is that your freaking phone knows you. Like it actually like understands you on like a visceral level, and like what you desire and how you think
Yeah.
and what you want. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't like a machine knowing my mind. That makes me want to move into the woods, guys. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, the algorithm mostly scares me, but also knows me very well. This whole thing, this listener sending in this question saying, "Oh, well, the algorithm doesn't know me because I just bought sunglasses. I don't need them." I don't experience that at all. Like
Yeah.
the algorithm tells me, "Here's a new David Bowie video on YouTube that you might like," and I say, "Hell yes,
Right.
I have to watch this now," and then
Right.
I'm down the rabbit hole. So
Yeah,
that
it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole. And you understand why people start to have the belief systems that they have is because you go down these rabbit holes and it's very easy to just get further and further and further and have a corrupt mind as a result because you're just looking at all this stuff all the time. This is an aside, but Bethany said, JJ, what's on the front of your hat? I can't figure it out. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to let everyone guess. And if someone guesses, you win. And if you're listening to this episode, you can go to our YouTube channel and look for yourself.
Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead, guess.
Is it the Oilers?
No.
Okay.
Incorrect. Good guess, but incorrect. All right. Next question. At 2 high safeties, how down bad will modern medicine be if Aaron Rodgers successfully returns this season?
Okay. Yeah, no, look, the dolphin sound, he's been listening to dolphins mating, and that has helped him heal. My theory, JJ, is that, and I'm going to say this as straightforwardly as possible. He didn't tear his Achilles.
That's what a lot of people, that's the conspiracy that's going around, is that he actually didn't tear his Achilles, and that's the reason why Zach Wilson, and they've been so forceful with it just being Zach Wilson because they know that they could just get by. They didn't need to make a big move because they knew that Aaron Rodgers would come back and be 100%.
And so we're gonna hear about that. If that's true, there's no way of hiding that fact. And we are going to hear it was only partially torn, or it was a calf injury all along, or something. But I'm sorry, a 39-year-old guy saying that he's going to return 10 to 12 weeks after tearing his ACL, that simply doesn't.
There's Achilles.
I'm sorry, God, I keep saying ACL, Achilles. This simply doesn't happen. This is a year-long process. If it was actually torn, which obviously it was not. Obviously,
I think that there is. Look, I'm not even going to say it. It's not worth it. I think that I'm sure that some of the things that Aaron Rodgers does is good for his body. Like some of the ways that he takes care of his body. I'm not saying, I don't know the exact, I'm not like saying don't get a vaccine or don't do, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that there is a world out there, a functional medicine world, let's say, where some of the things that they speak about, whether it's about diet and such, can be helpful. The issue I've always had is that it's very easy to then take that too far and then just say, doctors don't know what they're talking about at all. Right. And that's a really unfair thing to say. I just think that there is a side to this where I'm sure that Aaron Rodgers treats his body and I think mindfulness does matter to some degree. And I think all of that combined can help him out. Do I think that he's going to come back and be 100% if he had a full tear? It's kind of difficult to back that.
Difficult? It's impossible.
I know, it's crazy.
You're talking about a 3-month or 4-month recovery period for a year long. What is normally a year long? Also, we can't emphasize this enough. He's nearly 40 years old. Okay?
Yeah, I think the age thing is something that definitely goes sort of understated and under talked about.
So I know, he likes to throw that ball over the mountains for the cameras before the Jets games, and I understand what he's doing there. He's trying to show, hey, like I'm almost all the way back 8 weeks after tearing my Achilles. I think that eventually we are going to learn that it wasn't what we thought it was.
We got a correct answer in the chat from Vidimus. It is a Quebec Nordiques hat.
Yeah, cool, man. I like that.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Can you turn it around real quick?
Yeah. There we go.
I love that. I got to get one of those.
Nice little Quebec Nordiques hat. I like getting the the Canadian hats, like of the defunct teams that were in Canada.
Right. Well, you see my Whalers hat, right?
Yeah, I have a Whalers hat as well, and I have an Expos hat as well, and you do too.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
you need to get on this Nordiques train.
I do. I don't even know who they are, but I'll look them up.
Yeah, the Nordiques back in the day were fun. They were
Really?
a fun team. Like that was like peak hockey for me was in the 90s. Like I loved hockey in the 90s, so obsessed with it. You know, they become the Avalanche but a lot of like Joe Sakic was on the Nordiques before they went to Colorado.
What
So,
what city did they play for?
Joe Sakic? Do you know who is that? Did that just fly over your Patrick Waugh? You ever hear? Or no, he was it's also on the Canadians. But there were some really, really fun players that were on the Nordiques back in the day.
What city?
Quebec.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Or isn't it like Quebec instead of Quebec?
I whatever. It's whatever. It's whatever Americans say it is. It's Quebec.
Right. Right. I mean, Canadians are nice enough that they won't care how I pronounce it. Next question at Stairway to Evan 17. Is Arthur Smith designing plays specifically to frustrate fantasy players?
No. But obviously, I think he loves the fact that he's upsetting everybody.
Yeah.
Like I think that he gets a charge out of being like the galaxy brain, big brain guy who's like, I know how to run this system. And the analytics libs and the fantasy managers are going to try to tell me how to run this team, and I'm not going to let them.
Yeah, I think that he does enjoy being contrarian for sure. And by the way, I did just say that Patrick Waugh. I meant that Patrick Waugh played for the Avalanche for the record, not that he played. He went from Montreal to the Avs.
Also, I was told that the Whalers are not a Canadian team.
They were in Hartford before,
right.
But now they're in Carolina. They're the Hurricanes.
Oof, Carolina.
Which is it's cool though, because I've been to a lot of Hurricanes games because they're like in Raleigh. That's like 2.5 hours from where 2.5 hours from where I live. So when the Penguins are in town, I'll go there every once in a while, meet up with my brother, go see a game, and the crowd will sometimes there will be Whalers jerseys in the crowd and stuff.
Should Carolina have a professional hockey team?
Denny, don't do this to a fan base.
I mean, Las Vegas shouldn't. I know that.
They won the Stanley Cup last year.
I know, but come on.
The Vegas fans are actually awesome for hockey, and Carolina fans are really good, honestly, like legitimately.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I do think that they are deserving. I think it failed in Atlanta. They had remember the Atlanta Thrashers.
Man, I?
Yeah, that was your squad, baby. Next question at Devontae_Mac. How many current head coaches would Jeff Fisher be an immediate upgrade over? Can I make a statement about Arthur Smith real quick?
Sure.
I actually don't think he's that bad of a coach.
Wow.
I don't think he's that bad of a coach. What I think he is a prick.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You're right about that. No, he really is like a very unpleasant person.
Yeah, I don't mind saying negative things about unpleasant people who I think are just like, and it's not that he's obviously, I've never had a conversation with the dude or anything like that, but he's crapped on fantasy football in the past, right? Yes. And I'm not even saying that coaches have to like sit there and be like, fantasy football is the best and blah, blah. No. That's not what I'm saying. You just acknowledge that it's a thing that probably helps your sport. That's it.
It's the only reason anybody watches.
Right, exactly. But then if you suggest that, Denny, as a fantasy analyst, people think that you're just being egocentric.
No, you're not. It's the only reason people watch football is to watch their fantasy players. Nobody cares about football outside of fantasy. That's a fact. That's a fact.
I'm staying away from that statement, but it's very obvious that fantasy football helps the game. And Arthur Smith just being like, I don't care about these fantasy nerds, blah blah blah, and just like talking down on fantasy. It's like remember when Andy Benoit, the one writer that was writing for Peter King for a while, and I think he got a job with the Rams at one point. He said in an article not to stoop to giving fantasy advice, and here's what his fantasy advice was. You ready? It was to draft Joseph Randle in the first round. Remember Joseph Randle, the Cowboys running back? Joseph Randle. Yeah. Wow. And so when Andy Benoit said that, I had no problem tearing him apart. Like when you trash someone else's lifestyle and the way that they like what they do for a living and all that kind of stuff, I have no problem jabbing back. None. And that's exactly what's going on with Arthur Smith. He's already talked junk, and he said that it's toxic groupthink to believe that Desmond Ridder should be benched and that kind of stuff. Like, that's so unlikable that I don't mind poking fun at him every opportunity that I get, because he did this to himself. Like, he openly was a jerk to people. So I'm going to be a jerk back.
I mean, stoop to giving fantasy advice. He had to stoop from talking about a guy's hip swivel, like some guy who like wasn't even drafted,
right?
And his intelligence and zone coverage to oh, by the way, this is how you could help yourself in your fantasy league. Again, fantasy being the only reason football is popular.
There is a lot out there from people who believe that real football analysts are inherently better than fantasy football analysts.
That's absolutely untrue.
And I don't even mean at analyzing football. I just mean like as human beings walking this earth, like right. Football analysts are just better than fantasy analysts.
So the average fantasy manager, I'm not even talking about super savvy. The average fantasy manager knows more about the players on the field than the announcers do.
That's honestly, that's true in some cases, for sure.
I believe that. Look, you think Al Michaels has heard of Rashid Shaheed? No way. This guy's never heard of Rashid Shaheed. Al Michaels has never heard of Derek Carr. Okay. I mean, so yeah, I do think that there's a lot of knowledge out there, and we are smarter than everybody else.
I love that you go from announcers to then talking about one of the best play-by-play guys of all time.
Well, we can agree that old Al, as great as he's been, has lost his fastball.
He's lost his fastball a bit. He's become a little less energetic and entertaining to listen to. But the reason why I still don't mind listening to him is the nostalgia factor.
Me too.
You know, yeah,
I'm with you. I will watch if Al Michaels announcing a game. I'm watching it.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
And you know, it's just there is something missing there. That's all I know.
Yeah. Next question is from @Didymus. It says, please rank the following by levels of dog in them. Number 1, Kid JJ going for a PR on his bike. It was actually my rollerblades with belly full of M&Ms. Denny avoiding being owned by Bryce Young truthers after week 8. Number 3, Josh Dobbs stitching together plays in the huddle to beat the Bucks. Number 4, Joey Chestnut on the 4th.
Josh Dobbs is number 1.
I don't know. Dude, my rollerblading performance was quite doggy, if you will.
Wait, what does PR stand for?
Personal record. It was the remember, you know the story. I ate a lot of peanut butter M&Ms, and then I did a giant race while people were on bikes, and I was on my rollerblades, and then I fell at the very end, got a cinder in my knee, and vomited all over the place. That's the story for those of you who weren't around whenever I told that story. It's probably the 3rd or 4th time that I told it. That is, look, 8-year-old JJ had some dog in him.
I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like if you had dog in you wouldn't have done any of that.
You mean to tell me that you think that a professional football player, quarterback, playing the most difficult position on earth, stepping in after being on a team for 4 days and winning that game, it has more dog in him than 8-year-old JJ, who rollerbladed a mile after eating maybe a mile and a half after eating 2 giant bags of peanut butter M&Ms. You think Josh Dobbs has more dog in him than I did?
All right. When you put it that way, no.
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
I don't know. The rest, I mean, I obviously I wasn't owned by the Panthers fans. You could check my bio to confirm.
I want to talk about 2 more things before we go. The first one is from @Zipcode, and it's about Dare Gumbawale. I'm not going to get to the question, but I think that we need to at least comment on Dare Gumbawale and what he did. So if you missed it, hopefully you didn't, but Dare Gumbawale, because they lost their kicker. Who is their kicker at this? Remember, I don't know kickers. They lose their kicker.
Jaime Fairbairn.
Oh yeah. Okay. I actually know Fairbairn. Right. Fairbairn gets hurt, and so they don't have a kicker. And I remember the second half started. I think it was the second half when it started. And it looked so weird seeing Agumbawale do the kickoff. And I was like, something's going on. And then I realized that it was that he was injured. But then Agumbawale drilled a field goal in that game, which they needed at the end of the game, right? It was a necessary field goal.
He had to have it. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to have it. And he celebrated like it was just another day in the office.
Just like nothing. He just shrugged and was like, yeah, of course I made it. What do you want?
That's the kind of status that I would love to get to in life, is to be in a professional environment, take over a professional's job and do it that cleanly and just walk off like it was nothing.
Wasn't it funny, curious how the Texans had to turn into analytics kings in the red zone because they didn't have a kicker. And boy, did it work out.
Yeah.
Like they scored a bunch of points and they had to go for it on fourth down. It was like a thought experiment played out in real time. And I loved it. And other teams should consider, I don't know, never kicking.
Just never.
Never.
We didn't even talk about the Nick Saban quote from last week that just drilled my mentions for 48 hours. My God, that was
wow.
That was a rough scene. Actually, let's finish on that, and then I'll get to this next question next week. But the Nick Saban thing, if you guys missed it, he said that going for it on fourth down doesn't tell you, the analytics don't tell you, it only tells you what happens when you get it and convert. It doesn't tell you what happens when you don't convert. And so I quote tweeted, it was from a McAfee show. I quote tweeted the clip and I said, how is this real? That's all I said. That was my commentary. And people were commenting and saying things like, well, all Saban is saying is that there's other factors that you have to think about when you're making fourth down decisions. Nope. And if you listen to the full clip, he quite literally, after making that statement and saying that analytics don't tell you what happens after, or if you were to fail a fourth down conversion, right after, one of the examples he uses, Denny, is field position. He used field position as one of the examples as to what analytics doesn't. Yeah, because teams are going for it on 4th and 1 from their own 5 all the time, right? Like it blows my mind. And then, people are like, well, I'm going to trust the guy who's won 7 national championships over the guy who's living in his mom's basement. And I'm like, I'm sorry, people. It's okay to say that Nick Saban doesn't know everything, that Nick Saban can't walk into a surgery center and perform a laparoscopic surgery to get someone's freaking appendix removed or something. Like, he can't do everything. Nick Saban can coach a football team, can recruit, can motivate players. He knows defenses. He knows offenses. He doesn't know math. He doesn't know math at all. Period. End of story.
It betrayed a frightening lack of knowledge.
Yes.
About analytics. He clearly doesn't have anybody on the Alabama staff working on analytics, telling him about analytics. Maybe that's why Alabama's mid. I don't know. Maybe Nick Saban should bone up on analytics.
Yeah, exactly. There's TC Patter in the chat says a surgery center ... or a hospital.
I was wondering. I was like, do they call it surgery center in the South?
I was gonna say, like, going into surgery, guys. When I'm ranting, I'm not thinking about what the easiest way to say something is.
No, you're thinking of the most difficult way.
Whatever. Just accept the rant for what it was, folks. Just accept it.
It was good. And yeah. Saban, you gotta read a book, man. Just one book.
There were so many people in my mentions, dude, like all weekend long. You guys can go back. I was going back and forth with a lot of them at times too.
Don't do that.
I know.
Just sometimes ignore them.
Denny, we've talked about this before. 99% of the time I do. 99, but there are some people that I just have to own. I have. There was one dude in my mentions, Denny, who said that it's not like there are coaches who sit there with someone in their headset telling them the probability of what's going on fourth down. And he's like, you could even look at Harbaugh or Stefanski, etc., all of the analytical heavy guys. I screenshotted an article from 2018, and the quote in the article is quite literally, John Harbaugh has an analytical person in his headset. And it's hilarious because it's like these people think that headsets like don't exist. Like you have to do Morse code in order to get across whether or not you should go for it on fourth down based on analytics.
People, that's not common knowledge.
Oh, it's not common knowledge at all. Yeah.
Wow. That's shocking. We got it as a football community, guys. We got to get smarter.
That's what I'm saying, Denny. I can't sit back and watch people. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect in full form.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. People think, especially with football, and this is the same thing that happens with me, with my job, and probably with you, with your job. You go meet someone, right? This is like, imagine if you were a doctor or whatever, you would never question or talk about a doctor's skill set and say that you could do that thing. But I'll go and meet someone or whatever. Yeah, I know fantasy football. Yeah. Oh, I'm in first in all my leagues. Fantasy football is easy and blah, 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 blah. Oh, I can predict things so easily and I'm so good at this. And which is fine. I don't really care about that conversation so much. It's just that you're clearly at the first part of the Dunning-Kruger curve where
that's right.
you don't know a lot, but you think you're an expert in this thing. And as you dig deeper and deeper into this stuff, you realize you don't know jack. You don't know
Jack
anything.
stuff.
You don't know jack stuff. And then eventually you learn more and more and you become more of an expert on that topic. But the Dunning-Kruger effect was in full form and full blast in my mentions over the weekend, where people think that they know what is actually going on with analytics and the analytics community and what analytics do and all this kind of stuff. They have no idea. They have no idea. None.
Listen, when Harbaugh, is agonizing over whether to go for it, he just calls in. He says, "One analytic, please," and then they run the play. So
Right.
It's that easy.
We have a comment in the chat that says, "Does this hypothetical doctor work in a surgery center?"
We love our surgery centers, folks.
Oh my gosh. All right. We're way over time, Denny. Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, you guys are going to have to pay us more for the last 5 minutes of this podcast. At CD Carter on the X Machine. I'm also on Blue Sky. You can find my regression files piece on NBC Sports. I may also write a pass funnel, run funnel piece on Thursday.
There's one more question. Diego Lopez says, Jack Stuff will be a tight end streamer in 2024. Book it.
Oh, you're right. Jack Stuff for sure. I'm starting Stuff in all 14 team leagues.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm drafting them everywhere. Everywhere. Last round pick for sure. You can find all my work over on lateround.com and follow me on Twitter at lateroundqb. Thanks everyone for tuning in this week. Greatly appreciate it. Even though that's the thing that I say on my other show, I'm just kind of wasting time right now to get this outro video ready for the live stream. But anyway, everyone take care. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to Living the Stream. We hope you enjoyed the internet podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes now. It won't take long, it's fast. For more fantasy football info, check out
lateround.com and NBC Sports Edge.
Hope you come back soon as we share about the teams and as we live in the stream.